Hello everyone and welcome back to Spoiler Warning featuring myself, Tom Colohue. We are of course talking wrestling news, exclusive news you can't find anywhere else, usually until a couple of weeks later. Our top story today will be Stephanie McMahon's name being raised as regards allegations being made against Vince McMahon. We're going to dive into what's happening there and whether or not the witness in question is credible. The debut plans for Mercedes Money in Boston. We have a concern within AEW following up on those debuts for the amount of injuries they've picked up recently. More on that. We're going to talk Bayley versus Io Sky and his place at WrestleMania. And I need to go into this quite in depth, we're going to discuss a bad week for Dave Meltzer, particularly as regards the Wrestling Observer newsletter today. It was a very bad week for Dave Meltzer, with a lot of what came out already disputed or outright debunked, including by yours truly. We're going to talk the NXT injury list and some of the injuries being picked up in NXT at the moment, as well as an update on the return schedule for Alexa Bliss and Carmella, because a lot of people have been asking about this, and plans for future videos on WTF, which feature Ashley Massaro reports about allegations she's made being part of the current federal investigation into Vince McMahon. I'm not going to discuss it here where I'm not edited, because I do have to be careful what I say, but I am planning to put videos together which will hopefully interest people, and you guys can check that out. My analytics for some reason are not at all live on YouTube, so I'm just going to roll with it and go with what happens. Welcome everyone. We will be going into our top story, but let's go into a little bit of the chat as well while we go through that. We are 2 minutes in and 28 likes. Let's see if we can get 2 more to get us up to 30. If you haven't hit like yet, please consider doing so, even if those 2 have already come in. So let's see what people are saying. Spider-Boss says, I learned since 2022 WWE promote and put in the main event of WrestleMania matches that they want instead of what the fans want. Yes, that's correct. That's always the case. That has forever been the case. That's not new. Michael says, hi Tom. Hello Michael, and also thank you for renewing your subscription for what is now a 36th month, a 3rd year in a row. You're on the beginning of the 4th year with us, and I use you basically as my litmus mark to know how long I've been doing this for. Thank you Michael, I appreciate you. Rosal says, hey Tom, how you doing? Doing well, thank you, nice to see you. Spider-Ball says, funny that according to Boozer, Roman and The Rock segment will not be scripted. Roman's promos aren't scripted. No, they're not. They haven't been for a long time. I've been reporting for a long time that Roman has not been scripted. The Rock, I've already reported, is not scripted. I suspect Boozer might watch Spoiler Warning, in which case, hi Boozer. Let's see if you post something from tonight's show on your Twitter, shall we? Hi Christoph. Leon says, hi Tom, hope you're doing well. Accidentally thought yesterday was Friday. You did indeed. It's always nice to see. People are so eager to get the show going. Bob says, hello Tom and everyone. Hello Bob, nice to see you. Joey says hello as well. Bailey says, will there be a watch party for Elimination Chamber? Yes, there will. We will be live for Elimination Chamber that hopefully you can jump in on and enjoy. Spider-Boss says, who do you think will be facing Gunter at WrestleMania 40? I stand by my belief that it will be Bron Breakker. There is a bit on Bron Breakker later, but it's a Dave Meltzer bit. Joey says, do you think the NXT vignettes could be for Tama Tonga? I don't know who the NXT vignettes are for. As such, they could be for almost anyone. Except, as I mentioned, Okada, because he signed somewhere else. Wrestling Heritage says, hey Tom. Hello Wrestling Heritage, a new name in there. FDR says, hello, and hello. Been a while since I've joined for a live session. What's new with Colohue? Took the family shopping yesterday. They spent a lot of my money. That's apparently my life now. I'm excited for it. What's new with you, mate? Andrew says, hello, Tom. Hope you're well. Be an interesting SmackDown tonight, and it will be electrifying. Yes, it will. Jon Vocus says, for some reason, Seth Rollins' heel turn at WrestleMania will not make sense. It's not happening, so why would it have to make sense? It doesn't have to make sense if it's not real. We will be doing one that's a little bit later in the Dave Meltzer section. Razar says, Elimination Chamber currently has 4 matches. Will any more be added? I was hoping for a Damage Control tag match. I suspect there'll be 1 more match added, yes. Selvig says, hello Tom, hope you're doing well. I want to know, is there any plans for Jade Cargill on Elimination Chamber? Also, I want to know if Baron Corbin is going to the main roster with Bron Breakker as a tag. Personally, I believe Bron Breakker will get an opportunity against Gunter at WrestleMania. Afterwards, I see Baron Corbin being called up at that point, back up, to essentially pat him on the back and just say, look, let me help you out a little bit. The main roster's a different beast. I'd like that. That'd be fun. As regards Jade Cargill, there was a reported leak that she would be in it. Now there's a reported leak that she will not be in it. Wrestling Heritage says, who do you think will be the breakout star of 2024? Dakota Kai. Mark your watch by it. Dakota Kai. Spider-Boss says the best thing WWE has done is let Roman be himself. Since his promo stops being scripted, Roman has delivered good promos. Sean says, hi Tom. Hello, Sean. WrestleBuzz says, happy Friday, Tom. Excited to see what happens tonight with Rock and Roman. Me too. Joey says, Bron Breaker's main roster call-up getting delayed again since the NXT tag titles with Corbin. No. FDR says, I'm good as well. Thank you for asking, Tom. You're welcome, mate. Kelly to say, Tom, can't wait for next Saturday. I'll be here for your watch along. Nice to know. Sean, there has been no confirmation of the injury to Shotzi as of yet, and I'm not exactly going to go chasing saying, what's she hurt with, what's she hurt with, what's she hurt with. She is a human being, and I don't want to pester her for that. Joey, I've mentioned it before, I suspect we will see Dakota Kai and Bayley versus Asuka and Kairi Sane, which is a perfect opportunity for Bayley to turn on Bayley. For Dakota Kai to turn on Bayley. Hello, Marcel. Nice to see you, mate. Noob says, hello, Tom. How are you doing today? Doing very well, thank you. I've missed spoiler warning. Nice to be back. And Peter Roberts says, hello, Tom. How are you? Roman Reigns has a lot of opponents, such as Randy Orton, Zoe Sikoa, Jimmy Uso, and I think Roman Reigns will retain at WrestleMania 40. Cool. Wrestler fan says, is Jade Cargill going to WrestleMania 40? Yes. Chris Leclerc says, 5 years, Bayley and Sasha Banks became the first ever WWE Women's Tag Team Champions on February 17th, 2019. It is, of course, February 16th, 2024, so not quite yet. Spider-Boss says, I think people thinking Seth turning on Cody is just a theory. It's not a theory. It's not anything. It's just fans with some wishful thinking. Sean says, I wasn't a fan of Corbin winning the tag titles. I don't think he needed it. He can do good work without a title. If that's the case, no one should ever win any title ever. Joey says, was Shotzi being planned for anything big before her injury? No. Selvig says, is Dakota Kai going solo or be with Damage Control for the time being? We will see that play out shortly. I've already reported what I can on it, and based on the match that I've just mentioned at Elimination Chamber, I'd imagine you can see what the intention is. "78 people watching, 41 likes so far. Can we go higher? Have you hit like yet? If not, please do consider doing so." Let's get to our first piece of news. I'm going to move this over here because my analytics aren't working for some reason. We open with the news on Stephanie McMahon being dragged into the accusations currently levied against her father, Vince McMahon. The accusations in question originate from a friend of Ashley Massaro, the late, unfortunately, Ashley Massaro. Ashley Mazzaro's accusations against Vince McMahon have been out there for the world to see for years now. And in fact, 2 years ago, I posted a video about Vince McMahon and some of the activities that he's been accused of, in which I directly mentioned Ashley Massaro. If you haven't checked that out, please do consider doing so. I'll link to it a bit later on in the video. It's one of those where it does dive deep into everything going on with Vince McMahon and does cover a lot of things which a lot of people are now surprised to find. So it is a deep dive that I think people could really benefit from. Now, with the news coming from a friend of Massaro, that is something that could itself be considered prejudicial to the active case ongoing against Vince McMahon. I'll share what I can in lieu of a full edited video. I'm going to read my script for this because I have to be careful. The friend in question, whom I won't name, is not at this point believed to be considered a credible witness and is not believed to have been contacted by the team behind the current federal investigation against Vince McMahon. Stephanie herself is not answering questions at this time, which is naturally unsurprising. The names of people such as Stephanie McMahon and Triple H are going to come up a lot in the coming months. True or not, there will be a whole economy built around anti-McMahon clickbait. Read carefully, tread carefully, and if you're concerned about anything, bring it to this channel and we can dive into it and rip it apart to see if it's credible. I cannot say, at this point in time, whether Stephanie McMahon was aware of allegations against Vince McMahon. I cannot, certainly at this point in time, state that she agrees with or was privy to any actual fact against Vince McMahon at the time. We do have to be careful on reporting this. I will continue to be so. But as I say, expect the names Stephanie McMahon and Triple H to pop up a lot. There will be lies about them, and there will be truth masquerading as lies about them. Okay? People are going to try and muddy the water. We need to stay ahead of it and know who to trust. Wrestler fan says, who do you see Bianca Belair facing at WrestleMania 40? I can't remember who brought it into this chat. It was one of you, and I thank you for it. But I love the idea of Bianca Belair, Street Profits, and Bobby Lashley against Scarlett, the Authors of Pain, and Karrion Kross. That works for me. Andrew says, I think Mania 40 will be interesting. With the Roman, Rock, Cody, Seth stuff, I think Rock will turn on Roman after the tag match, as the WrestleMania XL teaser basically confirmed the tag match. If that's the case, Roman would take a beating from The Rock and then have a whole of a night to work on. Sean says Bayley shouldn't trust Dakota knowing her history with friends. Ed says Shotzi's been confirmed injured at the NXT taped show and has been replaced by Alba Fire tonight, source WWE social media. Thank you, Ed, appreciate that. Hector says, afternoon, Tom. I'm not sure if you're going to talk about this, but Fightful Select reported that Drew's contract has been extended past Mania for added injury time. Hector, if you have watched WTF Wrestling, they actually originally reported that several months ago. The reason it's getting more airtime is because what they've done is recycled their own report to get more clicks behind a paywall. Actually mention it in WTF Wrestling and use the report as a reference point. Chris says, good evening, Tom. Welcome, Chris. 456 says, hello to all and blessings. Welcome, 456. King Azza says, hey, Tom, do you see them doing this finish at WrestleMania 40? Cody Azza, nope. Not even going to read the rest of it. Any question that starts with, do you see them doing this finish? I've already said exactly what I expect in each match. Already said it. Razar says, do you think the unnamed corporate officers in the lawsuit will ever be revealed? Yes. If they're caught doing something they shouldn't, their names will be revealed. Spider-Boss says, did WWE try hard to bring back Mercedes money? Yes, they did. Leon says, any news on Sheamus and when he will return? Not at this point in time. I believe he's being cleared. They're just waiting for the right storyline to bring him back. Wrestling Heritage, that is sourced from House of Wrestling. I've mentioned previously my thoughts on House of Wrestling, and I've already covered as best I can. As I say, they're using it as clickbait. Noob says, who will the Kabuki Warriors face at WrestleMania? Undecided as of this point. Spider-Boss says, spoiler warning is always ahead of SRS and Meltzer. Not always, to be clear, not always. Occasionally, we are, and I'd love it if they could respect it. But they never will. Ohio, I appreciate how you phrase that, making it clear that it's your opinion. I appreciate you for that. Eric says, do you think Cody will finally finish his story this year? Yeah. Noob says, I hope that Triple H doesn't get caught in the Vince McMahon allegations. Many fans have already decided that he has. Spider-Boss says, House of Wrestling should be rebranded as House of CM Punk. I've myself made that joke. Khalid says, hope Cody Rhodes confronts Rock and Roman tonight. Unlikely. Wrestling Heritage says, Matt Riddle says that talks with TNA Wrestling via Fightful. Is that via Fightful, or did Fightful re-report what was actually reported in the Chris Van Vliet interview? Roger Sims says, Scott D'Amore's attempted by TNA Wrestling source Wrestling Headlines. Wrestling Headlines, to my knowledge, is not a credible source. And thank you very much, Ed, for sharing the link to the video on Vince McMahon. I'm just going to go ahead and pin that and put it at the very top so people can check that out if they haven't already. Plenty of stuff there about Vince McMahon. Not quite 2 years. I appreciate you giving the date as well, Ed. That really helps me. So about a year and 4 months, I want to say, ago, based on what you've put in there. So a year and 4 months ago, a lot of details that are now becoming public knowledge. I just wish more people checked out my videos so they weren't surprised by this. You know? You get me? You get me. Wrestler fan says, do you see every main roster championship being defended at WrestleMania 40? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Appreciate that, Wrestling Heritage. Appreciate you're not sure and you're open enough to say it. 49 likes, one more guesses to 50. Can you be the one? With 85 people here, some of you definitely have not hit like. Next up, let's talk AEW, the debut of Mercedes Money. Mercedes Money will be debuting in Boston. There is a line out the door for potential opponents for her. There is one who's actually injured at the moment, who definitely wanted the match, but will no longer get the opportunity, and someone that Mercedes herself was looking to work with. I'll get to that in a moment. Saraya, formerly known as Paige, is still considered to be the favourite to be the initial feud, though Toni Storm's name is being mentioned more and more given how well her work is being received in AEW. Tony Khan, and to be clear, this is the exact phrasing I've been given, Tony Khan intends to treat her like the biggest name in the company. The biggest name in the company. AEW have now signed Kazuchika Okada. expected to arrive at a similar time, if not the exact same show. Kazuchika Okada just has to go through the rigmarole of essentially moving his entire life to a different country, so it's taking a little time. MJF is also due to return shortly, either in the next couple of weeks or around the same time. So Tony Khan is putting together a bit of a soft relaunch of AEW. That show is expected to be one that brings back viewers, brings back attendances, and if they have a good show, Tony Khan does believe it can be a relaunch of AEW that will be a big help when it comes to, for example, a TV deal that they still believe is incoming. Will Ospreay, for his part, is going to be full-time AEW, and it is believed at this point in time that he's being lined up to main event Wembley's All In against Samoa Joe. Will Ospreay is believed to be the next AEW World Champion. There is also a concern within AEW, I should say, at the moment, at the amount of injuries currently being racked up, particularly amongst names who did have big storylines coming. Adam Cole and MJF were supposed to actively be feuding as we speak one last time, where Adam Cole would pick up the win this time, and then MJF would have taken the time off that he has instead taken time off now. That was the plan, thus allowing Adam Cole to be built up once again towards Samoa Joe and Undisputed Kingdom to have a bit more of a build about them. Other plans have been shelved for Julia Hart, who was expected to be more of a fighting champion, and Julia Hart is a name that has been pitched as an opponent for Mercedes Money, with Mercedes believed to be lined up to win the TBS Championship and hold that for a while to help elevate that championship, leading into a point at which she does move on, similar to a Roman Reigns style situation, holds the championship for a long time, builds it up to a point where it's literally competing with the Women's World Championship, and then loses it to the next big thing. Jeff Hardy's recent injury, broken nose, has a number of people concerned as to whether either of the Hardys have proven a sound investment. Again, I'm reading what I've been told. There are concerns that neither of the Hardys, due primarily to the injuries that they've picked up, have been proven to be a sound investment in AEW. Where were we? King Arthur says, how are they going to book the tag match? However they want to. Spider-Boss says, at this point, people should not bet against Roman. 4 years reading people saying Roman will lose the title, including me, to be fair. Including me. JMG says, if you go back through Ashley Massaro tweets, she says Steph had nothing to do with it. Once again, I should point out, a tweet is not considered to be a formal type of evidence. It is circumstantial at best. And Twitter investigators should probably calm down and recognise that they cannot prove certain things, such as who it was posted by, when it was posted, and if it was posted under any duress. Spider-Boss says, Britt Baker is still injured. I think she's a good rival for Mercedes Money. Not if she's injured, she's not. Rizal says, do you think Mercedes will be a weekly actor on AEW or will she be part-time? To my knowledge, she's looking for limited dates so that she can further develop her separate businesses. Spider-Boss says, Undisputed Kingdom can benefit from the return of MJF. Yes, they can. Khalid says, I can't wait for Sasha Banks for Mercedes Money's debut on AEW. You need to get used to it, Khalid. JMG, 5,700 tickets is considerably more than they're selling anywhere else at the moment. Mercedes is a draw. It is showing. Jack says, Cody will not be on SmackDown no more this month. JMG says, Sammy Guevara broke his nose. He's the one who isn't the good investment. Once again, reading what I was told. Aled says, MJF still injured? It was reported after World's End he'd be out for around a year from Fightful. Around a year is not what I have heard. Let's just say that. Juan says, I thought Mercedes Money was going for Tony Storm's title. Who told you that? Also, didn't I just tell you that? Razar says, wait, Mercedes going after the TBS title? That would be interesting. Michael thinks the Undisputed Kingdom is a bit of a flop. A Wrestler fan says, will John Cena be either wrestling or appearing at WrestleMania 40? Discussions are ongoing. Nothing is confirmed yet. Spider-Boss says Mercedes Money and the TBS Women's title. Interesting. The TBS Women's title was made relevant by Jade. As I've mentioned a long time back when I first talked about Mercedes going to AEW, she wanted Jade Cargill. That was when Jade Cargill was still the TBS champion. There are layers to this. Bailey says, will Athena ever get a serious title run in AEW, or is she not being considered beyond Ring of Honor? She is not currently in the mind of the creative team too often, because a different team is working with her. Leuven says, Mercedes Money versus Thunder Rosa is going to compete with Rhea versus Charlotte. King Arthur says, I think should do if Cody loses, he can't challenge her once again. Pure fantasy booking there, King Arthur. By all means, dive into it. I'm just not going to read it. And Wrestling Heritage says, Triple H should come out of retirement to face The Rock at WrestleMania 40. No. Analysing the possibility Sportskeeda won't happen. Triple H not able. More fake news. I used to work for Sportskeeda. I spent a lot of time essentially being PR for them to basically say, you know this thing that you keep doing? Stop doing it. Just stop doing it. It appeals to the lowest common denominator. It's made for Google search results. It shouldn't be things that people find. It's horrendous. Thomas says, do you think we'll have Roman and The Rock set up a tag match at Mania against Cody and Seth? Thomas, what I'd like you to do is check out the thumbnail from Monday, spoiler warning. You don't even need to watch the full show. No, Sovic, Sammy Guevara is not facing flack. Believed to be a freak accident. Kelly says, do you think we see Triple H tonight on SmackDown? Yep, we'll see him for quite a while in the build-up to WrestleMania. Triple H and The Rock are making a point of being as available as possible so as to guarantee old-school Attitude Era fans are tuning in. As regards Bayley versus Io Sky for WrestleMania, we've talked about it at length, we'll continue to do so. There is no intention at current for Bayley versus Io Sky to have a main event slot at WrestleMania. Cody and Roman seem likely to have both main event slots, with Rhea versus Becky also actively competing for the night one slot. Okay? So I'm just really clear on this one. I've tweeted about it earlier and a lot of people don't believe me, which is pretty standard fare, unfortunately. Bayley versus Io Sky is not at this point in time being considered to main event either night of WrestleMania. Let's just say The Rock wants both. Zayn says, I don't see what the big fuss is. Mercedes Money, I have no interest in her since she was in WWE. Then that explains why you don't see what the big fuss is. Unfortunately, you're not the only person in the world, and there are other people who are big fans of her. And to them, she's a big deal. Your perspective is that she's not a big deal. That's the difference. No worries, Thomas. No worries at all. I'm just telling you that there is a resource. I'm not saying don't ask the question. I'm saying there's a place you can grab it. Daniela said, do you see Cedric and Ashanti the Adonis being presented on SmackDown from tonight prominently? No. There's other people being focused on in the tag division right now. Appreciate that, Wrestling Heritage says. That's why I like your channel. You only report what you know and don't clickbait. I try not to. Occasionally I've been accused of it. And, you know, sometimes I do go for a bit more of an emotional reaction to get the views in. But I do what I can. Aled, Stone Cold versus The Rock is not something they're currently planning. Leuven says, speaking of Monday, wouldn't it be cool if Seth Rollins had a superhero hurricane-ish gimmick when he teams with Cody? He does not have that, and no, I do not think it would. I think he's pretty good with the gimmick that he's got. Kelly said, I don't think Triple H should wrestle again. He's not going to, guys. There is no possibility whatsoever that Triple H will ever wrestle again. Hector says, Tom, what do you think of Tony Khan's constant all-in approach? Like how they had Bryan Danielson and Adam Cole debut on the same night. Now the eventual debut of Mercedes and Okada. The launch night in which they had Bryan Danielson, they had Adam Cole, they had CM Punk appear. That period for wrestling was just a wonderful time to be a fan. Tony Khan's very good at a soft relaunch, and that's what he's going for. Get the Table broadcast. Welcome, mate. Because let me know if I have to go watch one of the old videos. You don't. I'll just give you an answer right now. Is The Rock and Roman in a match off the table for now? Yes, it is. Just for now, though. There was a possibility, and The Rock was pitching the idea that he could beat Cody in night one and then go on to face Roman. Triple H shut that down pretty quick. The tag match is what they seem to have landed with. Rock versus Roman is not going to happen in WrestleMania. At this point, Triple H has it locked in. Cody Rhodes versus Roman, main eventing WrestleMania. Now, in a match, still possible. The Rock is not signed on for one match, okay? The Rock is not signed on for just one match. Juan says, hey Tom, I may also add Sportskeeda reported Sammy Guevara is still getting flack for his past comments on Mercedes Money, even though he apologised. She not only accepted it, but they're on better terms now. King Gaza says, I want Io to retain and Bayley to win in Paris. It will be a bigger pop in my opinion. I disagree. Alyssa says, do you think this time Roman Reigns lose title if drop WrestleMania will be a big deal when drop title win? Yeah, I think he'll lose. Rosal says, it's interesting that WWE for the first time this year announced the winner of the Women's Royal Rumble with main event WrestleMania only to not even consider Bayley. Weird on their part, to be honest. The Rock. That is the answer. Selvig says, is Stone Cold Steve Austin or any surprise planned for WrestleMania 40? Surprises are indeed planned. If I now mention all of them, they won't be surprises. Spider-Boss said, I thought Bianca would join Lashley and the Street Profits, and B-Fab was the one who joined Lashley's stable. There's a number of different people that could benefit from a stable like that, and that's who they're looking at the moment. Thomas says, who would you have win the Elimination Chamber to challenge Rollins? Personally, I would have Dom. It'd be a great surprise for everyone. Then you can have Priest cash in on him after the match. Personally, I'm leaning towards Drew. I've mentioned it before, and I'll mention it again. Personally, if you watch WTF Wrestling, you'll know this. I believe Drew McIntyre has signed a new deal with the WWE. I believe he will go on to face Seth Rollins at WrestleMania, and I believe that the winner of their one-on-one match will be Damian Priest. Wrestler Fan says, do you see Pat McAfee or Bad Bunny wrestling at WrestleMania 40? No, but I don't think it's impossible. I'll have no return date for Kenny Omega. There is no intention to push him in any way. Khalid said, if Sting retires from AEW, do you see him being Darby Allin's manager? Nope, if he retires full stop. Roger says, I prefer a one-night WrestleMania to finish at 4 a.m. in the UK. With that in mind, how many matches are you cutting? Because if it's one night that finishes at 5, you'll have 6 matches total. Roger, give me your WrestleMania card if you only have 6 matches. You know, Wrestling Heritage? Yes, I am. I'm actually quite excited. Roger says, what country has the best wrestling fans? Whichever country has not been visited for a while. Alex says, who do you expect to qualify tonight for the Elimination Chamber? Logan Paul versus Miz and Kevin Owens versus Dominic Mysterio. The Miz and Dominic Mysterio. I suspect Logan Paul and Kevin Owens may well be taking place in a rematch at Elimination Chamber. Dave Meltzer. It's a bad week for Dave Meltzer. Let's go through a few of the things that he reported on the Wrestling Observer newsletter, and to be clear, a lot of these are either proven already untrue or are seriously questionable. So let's dive into this. The first one that really jumps out, 100% untrue, is the idea that during the actual press conference, they recorded, even though the press conference was live, they recorded a Triple H and The Rock stare down in which The Rock challenged Triple H to a match at WrestleMania. Now, to be clear, this didn't happen. At no point did this happen. But it did allow the Wrestling Observer to get headlines all across media. Hundreds of headlines directed traffic to the Wrestling Observer through something that was completely and provably untrue. Anyone who shared this report, anyone who did, clearly does not fact check their information. So remember where you first heard this, okay? Remember where you first heard this, because they did not check it. Let's go a little further. Last week, Dave Meltzer reported that the morale in AEW is absolutely fantastic. This week, Dave Meltzer reported that the morale in AEW is pretty poor. Really? Overnight? Overnight? At this point, it kind of suggests he'll pretty much repeat anything. Let's talk TNA. Dave Meltzer reported that their new head of creative will be Tommy Dreamer. Peter Insider say, nope. Now, that's not provably untrue, but it is a PW Insider's word against Dave Meltzer's. It'll be interesting to see what actually happens there. Dave Meltzer also suggested that the fact that Bron Breakker is mentioned as having a good spear means he's about to enter a feud with Roman Reigns. Nope. No. Not going to happen. That's just pure wishful thinking from Dave Meltzer. Now, there is one report that does have a glimmer of truth. Jennifer Pepperman, I believe her name is. A member of the creative team is stepping down from WWE, stating that she's looking for a change. Dave Meltzer heavily hinted that she might go to AEW to basically be the creative head for Mercedes Money. Very similar to how The Rock brought his own person in to creative. Now, that wouldn't surprise me with Mercedes Money. She knows what's good and she knows how to be looked after. My disappointment in that would be that they need female voices in the WWE creative team, and they don't have them. As regards Dave Meltzer, though, the fact that so many of these were completely false really makes me question everything he said. Can I suggest that maybe what's actually being said here is that Dave Meltzer actually just had no news to share. Now this happens. This happens to everyone. The Fightful paywall reports what it reports when it reports it. It can go days, even weeks, with no actual exclusive news. Okay? It can. A lot of what they do is based on the podcasts, where they're just talking about wrestling, or it's rumour killers and confirmations, where behind the paywall, they'll report, yeah, this person was right. That's not true. Much as Alad, I can see you've just posted in the chat. You see that a lot as well. So people do go without. I myself, on a multitude of times, have said openly, there's not going to be a spoiler warning tonight. There's really not that much news to share. It happens. In addition to that, Triple H is making a concerted effort to shut down a lot of the typical big name insiders, and it's proving effective. If this keeps up, Dave Meltzer might become a thing of the past. And it doesn't sound like he'll go out with dignity. Okay? I understand that's a bit dark, but I said it. Thank you everyone for bringing so much news in. I can see all of you doing so, and I appreciate all of you for doing so as well. Spider-Boss says, looking at WWE now, it's difficult to see another women's WrestleMania main event. WWE barely give TV time to the women's division. They will try next year with Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair. I'll let us excited for 2K24. Hello Tyler, how you doing? Spider-Boss says, Meltzer never learns, he always gets proven wrong. He doesn't always get proven wrong. Going to dispel that entirely right now. Dave Meltzer does, at times, have a good track record. Every year it seems to get worse, but Dave Meltzer is not always wrong. Alan says, Fightful also reported today Tommy Dreamer isn't head of creative for TNA. Ray says, I'm disappointed Byron Saxton is a commentator on 2K24 when he is a backstage interviewer now. And Ed says, confirming this, Tommy Dreamer has confirmed on Busted Open today, and the clip is on his Twitter. Nothing is changing for him. He isn't head of creative. Hater says, trust me, I'd rather Meltzer report about this stuff, even if it's wrong, over him reporting about leukemia potentially being a work. Yeah. Razar says, Meltzer will still have AEW to report about. A couple of things there on AEW I mentioned. Wrestling Heritage, I'm not going to read that one. You understand why, and your actual comment has been removed from the YouTube side, not by a mod. YouTube just didn't want it. Michael says, Meltzer's really good when it comes to wrestling history, which is absolutely true. Wrestling Heritage says, as Amari Miller says, the door is not shut on WWE return via the Observer. A couple of things left to discuss. Firstly, Nikita Lyons has been added to the NXT injury list. Much like AEW, there are concerns in WWE right now about the injury list, and in particular, repeated injuries such as knee injuries being picked up primarily by women. It's a thing in sport now. It really is. Triple H may use this. Come here. Come here. Real close, real close. I can't speak loudly on this one. Just me and you. Just me and you. Just me and you, okay? Just me and you. Can't have this guy now, okay? This is really important. I'm going to let you in on something here. It's really important. So, ears open, guys, okay? Ears open. Triple H may use this as a reason to do some changing of the guard for long-term linked WWE doctors. Without going into too much detail, okay? Without going into too much detail, some of them suddenly have reason to vanish as quickly as possible. More on that story when I can legally say more. Kristen says, do you know what Bayley's doing tonight? More between her and Dakota Kai. Razar says they have their news behind a paywall. When they don't have news, they need to make some up to justify people paying. This is one of the reasons that I really like reporting news on YouTube. You don't have to pay. I give you news for free. You'll occasionally get an ad, and that will fund the efforts made to get this news going. Also, eventually, it also funds any YouTube advertising I use, my editing software, funding the payment for Twitter at the moment, which by the end of this year I'll be in a profit and taking money from Twitter rather than giving money to Twitter, but you know what I mean. And so on and so forth. So I'm proud of the system that I use when it comes to reporting news. You do not have to pay. If you would like to pay, that's an option. You can support by being a channel member. You can support by giving bits on Twitch. You can report with a subscription on Twitch as well. You can also, of course, just make a donation. You have plentiful options if you would like to support financially. But you are supporting financially by watching. Whenever there's an ad, you are supporting this financially. If you hit like, tomorrow hit 60, you're helping this channel grow. You're helping me find new people. Every time you hit like, we get a few more viewers in here. They also get an ad. You've just supported this channel financially by hitting like. Every time you drop a comment. High chat rate. The higher the chat rate gets, the more people join the channel. Each time a new person joins the channel, what do they get? They get an ad. You have just financially supported the channel. I don't need to paywall any of you. I don't need to take money from you because I'm taking money from YouTube because of you. Beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff. No Wrestling Heritage, your comment did not show up on the YouTube side. It showed up in my streaming software because that takes anything. On the YouTube side, scrapped it. Steve, if you're YouTube Premium pays me. Your subscription, it takes half of it, roughly half of it, and splits it between all of the videos that you watch. So if you only watch one video a month, and it's only spoiler warning, I get all of it. If you watch 50 videos and you watch one spoiler warning, I get a 50 of it. It's a pretty good system if you ask me. As a YouTube Premium member, I still get paid. Everyone's happy. Alex says, if Jacob Fatu came into WWE, I'd have... okay, if and when. Thank you, Taylor. I appreciate that. Spider-Boss says, Nikita Lyons has been injury prone. She's been more time being injured than has been wrestling on NXT. Alyssa says, do agree both Liv Morgan, Austin Theory, characters change, don't get characters do something. Austin Theory does need a bit of a shake-up. Liv Morgan just needs to be back for a while. Ed Fry says something which I won't repeat, but which I suggest everybody read. Michael says, I'd be afraid of Dakota and Tegan's futures in WWE with their history of knee injuries. I'm a little worried myself. Wrestling Heritage, I've also got already got some very good editing software. Cost a little bit. It's worth it. Aled says, who'll be booed more tonight? The Bloodline, including The Rock, or Dominic Mysterio? Dominic Mysterio, because the WWE helps that along. Daryl Freeman. D. Freeman says, why would Jennifer Pepperman be working with Sasha when she was one of the defendants in Brittany Abraham's racial discrimination and wrongful termination lawsuit? Was Sasha named in that? Correct me if I'm wrong, because, I don't know the full details. Is there a connection to Mercedes money as regards what you just mentioned? C-Max says, I remember seeing Meltzer on a 90s Donahue episode about wrestling and steroids. He's definitely a legend in the game. Absolutely, he is. Again, under the current circumstances, I see a world in which he doesn't get the news anymore. Thank you, Taylor. Yes, Steve, next week's SmackDown is indeed being taped. Eric, my favourite kind of movie is hard to describe. My favourite actual movie is Baz Luhrmann's variation of Romeo and Juliet. It's ridiculous in all the right ways. Appreciate you for doing that, Spider Boss. That video has certainly got a lot of attention recently. What I do like to see, and what I'm very proud of, is particularly as WTF Wrestling, the amount of videos which are sort of relaunching and coming back. So they get that initial boost, they eventually level off, and then something happens and a lot of new people find it. And they're really doing well because of that. Yes, Sovic, that exact one. No Wrestling Heritage, there will not be a SmackDown watch-along. Callie says, evening Tom, welcome Callie. Steve says, can you explain to me what Dave Meltzer does? I know he used to report wrestling and combat news, but what is he now? An opinion article. He still reports wrestling and combat news. He is primarily a historian and a reviewer. Ray says, what has happened to Nikki Cross? Haven't seen her for ages. No real plans. They let her have a bit of time off to go and finish off things here in the UK that she wanted to do, and she hasn't just come. They've got nothing for her, so she hasn't come back yet. Nice and simple. Bit more news. So, in response to questions here on Spoiler Warning about Alexa Bliss and Carmella's return schedule, I reached out and was essentially told, and I'll read the exact quote here, "It's none of your business," by one source, which I respect. Another source said that they expect Carmella to be back in and around the wrestling business relatively soon. She's apparently been backstage on a number of occasions visiting the locker room, typically during the live shows, not the TV tapings. For Bliss, she hasn't been seen much at all at the WWE. Nice and simple one. A lot of people have been asking, so I thought I'd get something in there. Soundtrack is amazing, Sovic. Spider-Boss says Meltzer was the one who said Mercedes money wanted more money and he got proven wrong. Did he? I don't think he got proven wrong. I believe I'm the only person who actually disputed it. To my knowledge, Peter Insider and Fightful both confirmed that they felt Mercedes money wanted more money. I was the only one to my knowledge who said that what she wanted was less dates. And the name Mercedes. One last thing I do want to mention, and this is a question for all of you as well, okay? So I'd love your feedback on this. I'm currently putting together, and it might not be this week, a bumper version of WTF Wrestling based on an in-depth look at Ashley Massaro's allegations against Vince McMahon and other high-ranking officials in the company. The build-up to WrestleMania, the WTF Wrestlings that I have planned are all essentially built around accusations made against a number of individuals. I'm also considering, based on some of the current accusations, a full Who is John Laurinaitis video. Viewer discretion is advised, but it does open a question. What do people come to this channel for? Is it the behind-the-scenes news? Is it the investigative journalism? Or is it the low-risk fun stuff, like the previews and the fact videos? Is it also the ability to actually just ask questions and get them answered? So is it being able to talk to an actual wrestling journalist? Is it the backstage news? Is it the investigative journalism? Or is it the low-risk fun stuff? Please let me know what it is that you come to this channel for. Because, to put it bluntly, I make videos for you. You right there. You might not think I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you directly. If you are listening to this, it's you. I make videos for you. And you alone. Just you. Okay? Just you. So if I'm not making videos that you'd watch, why am I making videos to begin with? Wrestling Heritage says the news journalism. Ed says all of the above. Callie says all as well. Brad saying all of the above too. Spider-Bell said the video about Laurinaitis would be interesting. I only knew Laurinaitis to be Vince's right-hand man. Alex says being able to talk to a wrestling journalist. Lovely. David says I come here to hang out and have fun with good people. I also like that part. So just going to take a moment on that. I really like that. I really like that we can just dive in here and we can have chats between ourselves and we can make dumb jokes and we can talk about wrestling. That's my biggest appeal here. I love these live shows. Everything else is just to feed these live shows. Michael says mostly backstage news. Juan says being able to ask questions and they get answered. Andrew Quinn is asking, is there any news on Stone Cold Steve Austin? Obviously, Punk is missing Mania, unless he's back in time. He won't be. But do you think we'll get a Steve Austin Punk segment at Mania leading to a match? No. Leon says, for the fun. Taylor says, I'll watch anything you put out, Tom. The news and the back and forth conversations in chat are usually why I'm here. Good to know, good to know. Daniela says, asking questions and hearing from wrestling journalists and spoiler warning. Lovely. Michael says that. And chatting. Razal says, getting to ask questions and also all the news. You're very well rounded in covering both the serious and fun stuff. Appreciate that, Razal. I try and always make sure that there's at least something fun in there where I can just report something which, you know, little tiny thing. Just a little tiny thing. There's just good vibes, which I can see what you're saying, Hector, and just, you know, jump out, good vibes. Hector says, I watch this channel for the community and good vibes that you bring, Tom. I don't see you as a wrestling journalist like a Meltzer or SRS because you don't point fingers and just act like all of us. That's very endearing. I appreciate you saying that. Dane says, I come here to get your opinion on my questions. Lovely. Daniel's just joining us saying, yo. Alyssa says, so Cody Rhodes' ma. What about Cody Rhodes' mother? Spider-Boss says, do you think Dominic beats Kevin Owens tonight? Yes. Callie says, have you done the Steph news? Yep, 5 minutes in. By all means, zip back to 5 minutes in and you'll find it all there. Alex says, I watch also because it helps me and my group with the news you put out on our podcast because I want to give correct information. Alex, you're of course very welcome to take any of this news as long as you are sourcing it from myself and share it across the world. Do your thing, mate. Do it in Facebook groups. They're pretty good at the minute. Kind of. They won't be for long. Share it on TikTok. Mick does that and he does a great job. Share it. Get it out there. Do your thing. Find your audience. Do your thing. Kevin says, all of the above. I honestly see his channel as a safe haven, a getaway from the chaotic world. And I get that. Certain shows definitely have that feeling. When we lost Wyndham Rotunda, and I have a community here that means I can just jump on and talk to people and vent and feel cared about. I wouldn't change that for the world. You guys mean a lot to me. C-Max says, do you know if any of Vince's allegations are criminal or are all of them civil? There is a federal criminal investigation actively ongoing. Andrew says, I enjoy spoiler warning and I literally enjoy the news. It's like an episode turned into a series. That's the hope. That's the hope. Spider-Boss says, I think a big part of the hatred against Mercedes money comes from wrestling clickbait spread by wrestling media outlets like Wrestling Observer and SRS. I'd imagine you've seen the video I put out about wrestling media and Mercedes money. Alex is also here for the tables because the tables are very important. The tables are vital. That's what I need. I need a shelf, and I'm just going to put a shelf up there, and the shelf is going to have legs, and I'm going to call it a table. And then every single show, something different is going to be on the table because everything is on the table. We've been going for 45 minutes. All of my news has now been covered. Thank you everyone for that feedback. I will be using it going forwards to continue to work on the strategy of the channel. So far, so good. 80,000 views so far this year. Great numbers. We are already a fifth of the way to overtaking what we did last year, for example, and we're still on track for the million. Okay? We're doing great. A huge part of that is you guys tuning in, but not just tuning in. It's also leaving the like on the video. It's also leaving the comments. It's also coming in and just chatting to us. You guys make the magic here. I just follow suit. Thank you, Spider-Boss. That's a very nice thing to say. Andrew says, I just want to say thank you, Tom. I had a bit of a difficult time at the minute, but watching these videos, cheer me up. Shout out to 2K for putting the Fiend in the game as a tribute to Wyndham. There are 4 types of Bray Wyatt in 2K24. Spider-Boss says, I found spoiler warning looking for Mercedes money news. I got a good place for accurate wrestling news. I'm very grateful that there are certain wrestlers around which I have a tremendous record, Mercedes money being one of them, Bayley being another, and there are plenty more to talk about. I'm going to wrap it up there, say a massive thank you to all of you. We will be back with more spoiler warning on Monday, plus WTF wrestling incoming. In the meantime, as always, all I will say is that I've been Tom Colohue, you have been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.